Hi everyone, it's me again. This is part 2 of the videos, webinars that we're doing today regarding work logs. Let's try and get that screen a little bit better off. Yes, that gives a little bit less glare off the glasses. All right, so yeah, like I said, this continues on from what I previously did with regards to completing the work log. So once again, my name's Ernie. I take a role with PAA, the Pedophilic Association of Australia, where I liaise between them and the APRB. So I'm not on the APRB. I don't have anything to do with looking at logs or doing any management of the certification of pedauthors. I just am a liaison person within that system and help them liaise well with the association. Sorry about that. Okay. So look, this session is looking at CPD area of the logs, and this has been a problem area for the APRB in this last year. The feedback they received was that there seemed to be a lot of misunderstanding, or they could see within the logs that there was a misunderstanding about what was required and how to demonstrate the past 12 months where pedauthors have increased their pedauthalic learning, increased their professionalism using the criteria as a guide. And with most people accustomed to handwriting their logs in the past 10 years, the other problem, of course, the auditors had was that some of the handwriting was illegible and they just couldn't read it. The answer to that, they thought, was to have a fillable template. And so I was one of the people that was involved in working out that fillable template. And so it's been seen by the Pedophilic Association of Australia. They've given it a tick after some amendments, and then it went back to the APRB to publish. So the fillable template, we hope, can clearly and easily allow people to demonstrate, as far as CPD points, the 30 hours that are required. So one of the first things we did was made it clear that there's 4 categories of training that you can do, of which at least some hours must be in 3. So there's 4 categories of which you must put some hours in 3. Now, how many hours is not stipulated by the criteria. So that will be up for you to put in, and that will be up for the auditors to assess. Secondly, the fillable template requires you to choose activities from the category that are listed there. So it's made clear that you have to choose category activities from within that category. And that's a good thing because that makes it nice and clear and nice and concise as to where you put your information. And this is another good thing about this, is it actually reminds you of all the different possibilities where you can get hours towards CPD. And there are a lot of different areas, let me tell you. It's very broad where you can get your CPD hours from. So just as a reminder, this is just my own work, this video. It doesn't represent any more than my own guide as to how you might use this guide to complete your logs. Helping you understand how to fill out the template better will make it easier for you. And if it doesn't help you this time, then hopefully in preparation for next year's logs, you'll be better prepared for what's expected. Before I start this, I just want to follow up on some things from the last video. So I didn't realize that as I scrolled on my screen that the recording got frozen. So I apologize for that. I will hopefully remember not to scroll so quickly. And about the work logs and compressing photos within the document, let me quickly show you how you can compress. If you go to put a photo in and it's too big, I'll share my screen here again, and there's a good little app that you can go to that you might be able to compress your file. So this little online converter, image to go, I just converted a file, and basically it went from 1.7 megabyte to 71 kilobytes. And into the document, it was quite fine. So it went into the box quite well, and that's a way of converting your file to get that file size down. Okay, where are we? Let's jump into the area of the fillable template that is the CPD log area. All right, so here we are here, and it also, once again, it's just a click and tap to enter the date. In this area, there's obviously a glitch there because it does say first name and last name, but you can't click into that area. So don't worry about that. You can put your registration there again as well. At the top of the document, you still have your name there, so it'll still be registered to you. And like I said in the last video, it gets de-identified so that auditors do not see whose this is, so they can judge it impartially and fairly. Okay, so this the first page of this section says that there's 30 hours total across categories to be reported, and at least 3 of the 4 different categories must have an entry in it. Usually you have to have a conference, but not applicable for this year. That's a COVID-19 response. There is a limited, with COVID-19 being a problem, then that was taken out for this year. And once again, just remember that if you're putting in CPD, that it's not entirely clear that that's going to be acceptable to the registration board, or you're unclear whether it will be, then you must submit it prior to re-registration and not at re-registration time. So if you've been to a conference and you think, well, I'd like to put this down as CPD hours, but I'm not sure if they'll accept it, then I'm going to put it forward earlier. That's a really important thing, that you give that to the APRB in time before your logs are ready to be submitted. Okay, so let's dig down, scroll slowly. So I'm going to go through the 4 categories first. So let me just go to this category 1, work-based learning. Category, so this is learning that you do, as you can see, is to do based around daily or weekly or work activities within probably your own practice, perhaps. If I scroll, and hopefully we can then see that category 2 is professional activity. So this is perhaps things that are activities based around either by you presenting for the profession or receiving from the profession. Category 3 is formal education. So this is where there are courses and attending conferences, seminars, that sort of thing. Formal stuff. And the last one is self-directed learning. So that's an interesting one where you're not doing it perhaps in the workplace, and you're not doing it on behalf of the profession, and it's not a formal thing, but here you are, you're reading stuff, you're reviewing stuff, or you're updating your knowledge through internet or that sort of thing. We're going to come back and delve into that a little more later, but now I'm going to slowly scroll and see if we can. Not going very slow, is it? But we'll get to the top here. Okay, so let's go along the line here. We have a start date and an end date for our learning type. And here we nominate some hours that we want to claim for that. We need to categorize what the item is. So let's just go through those. So you've got case studies. Now this might be case studies where you present to others a case you've done, or it might be a case that you've followed through from someone else. Reflective practice. Well, I'm not entirely sure what that is. but I guess that is some sort of, yeah, I'm not really sure, reflective practice. Might have to look that one up. A clinical audit. So if you're within the NDIS sphere, we know that audits can come, and that other third-party payers might ask us to do an audit. So that would be what that is. If someone comes in and does an audit of our practice. Coaching from others is self-explanatory. Discussions with colleagues. Now that's pretty vague, but we'll come to, when we see our next column here, we see describe the subjects covered and providing organisation. So in this case, if you're going to claim hours and hours and hours of discussions with colleagues, and you're not going to put in this describe the subjects covered pedorthics. So I doubt very much whether the APRB are going to cop that. They may do, but they may require you to actually have much more specific subjects covered. And you can see their point is that if you were to claim, 28 hours of discussions with colleagues and then say pedorthics in this column, it's not really it's not really a demonstration that you have increased your knowledge. So we make sure that you describe these subjects covered really well, specifically. Work shadowing, I think that I'm not quite sure what that is either. That might be watching over someone's shoulder, I don't know. Supervising students is one. Now, supervising students for SCU is something that where the students could be at your practice for 270 hours. That's what the students have to do. I doubt very much whether there's any point in putting 270 hours down because you only need 30 any rate. But perhaps you would put down how many hours you yourself actually spent alongside that student, mentoring them, supervising them, or doing some of the assessment that you need to do that's involved in them, which would still be over a 7-week placement, probably close to, it could be close to 30 hours any rate. But either way, that's going to be a large chunk. If you've supervised an SCU student, then that's going to be a large chunk of your work-based learning claim. Perhaps you do a clinic and you have other practitioner students come in, like you might have podiatry students come in and spend some time with you, then you are only claiming the hours that you spent with that student, not their whole 8 hours that they were there that day, but just the hours that you were with them. Perhaps you visit an allied health profession, other allied health professionals or colleagues, and you're reporting back. So once again, demonstrating in here the subjects covered specifically. You're not going to put just pedorthics in there. You're not going to put custom-made footwear. You're going to actually be quite specific with what was covered. Analysing significant events. I'm not sure what that means, but if you have a significant event that you're analysing and you want to claim it, then I'd probably suggest that you email the APRB and ask them, would that be acceptable? I'll go through with you in a moment some of the basic topics that all this work-based learning needs to be linked to. Number 11, evidence of learning activities undertaken as part of your progression on the knowledge and the skills framework. So let's see if I can bring that up. That is, I hope, here. And this is from the criteria, and this is really the 9 key areas of learning knowledge that needs to be covered as topics. So practice management, once again, just these topics won't cop it, I don't think. I think you would probably have to be more specific about practice management and more specific about patient management. But so long as your topic fits under one of these umbrellas, then I think when we go back to the document here, much better gives you a chance to put into here the very specific subject covered. So just putting practice management in there might not be enough, but you might have several areas of practice management that you would quote. Providing organisation, once again, that's the organisation who you either receive the education from or spent time with, as when it comes to supervising students. So if it's a SCU student, the SCU would be there. If you visited allied health professionals, you'd put them there. So for some of these activities, you will get a certificate of attendance, and you need to attach that. Now, one thing is that this document can only, you can only attach JPEG pictures here. So we see here that certificates that are in PDF form, when you email this document back, you'll need to attach the PDFs that show what courses, what reflective practice you've done. If someone gave you, if the SCU gives you a certificate for supervising a student, it'll be in a PDF format, I'm sure. And so therefore you'll need to attach it. Self-verified, once again, they're going to trust you on that. So you need to designate that it's self-verified. And of course, if the auditors are wanting to verify that themselves, you know, they probably have a way of verifying that in another way. If you want to put down some other verification, then certainly do that. That'll probably hold a bit more water than self-verified, and a certificate's pretty good as well. So that's work-based learning, and you can see there's a good large area of ways of achieving hours with work-based learning. Okay, go down to section 2, professional activity. It's pretty much the same format. As you can see, you are asked to date it, nominate hours, choose an item, describe the subjects covered, providing organisation, and your other. In this case, it must be verified by another person unrelated. So even though we see here self-verified, other verified, and a certificate, in this case, this has to be verified by another person unrelated. I'm sure that if you provided a certificate that demonstrated that, that's likely to hold water as well. So we've got involvement in a professional body. That's a broad area, and you might nominate X number of hours for your involvement in the PAA if you did something. However, you're going to have to fill in here what you did. And I guess it needs to be reasonable. So if the providing organisation is the PAA, who you provided it to, then in here, you're going to need to be quite specific about how you spent the hours. So perhaps you helped at a conference and you were on the desk of the conference, and you were on the desk for 3 hours. On the first morning of the conference, you might put 3 hours down here. You'll choose an item that says number 1, helped on the desk at the PAA conference. Providing organisation was a PAA, and we're going to have other verified here. And you might need to say the president of the PAA, or, you know, maybe whoever it was that asked you to do it might have ended up being the secretary. So might have been Adam that did it, and you'll put his name down there. Okay, so number 2, lecturing or teaching. If you've done some lecturing or you've done some teaching in front of students, then you can put that down. So you might go I did a 1 hour tutorial at Podiatry Conference workshop. I did it on behalf of my own company. Oh, sorry, I've done that wrong. So that would not be like that. Dummy. That would be the Podiatry Conference workshop. And the topics covered were we might cover let's say we did depth footwear and fitting orthotics. So I did a talk at the podiatry conference that where we spoke about the difficulties of fitting extra depth footwear and fitting orthotics at the same time and how we got around it. We spent an hour doing it. And the other verification, we might be able to say here who the conference organizer was there that did that. Okay, that's category 2. So once again, plenty of room there. Mentoring, if you're mentoring someone, being an examiner, being a tutor, branch meetings. So the branch meetings means, you know, probably the state meetings. If any members of the board, so any member of the APRB in their meetings throughout the year, or if you're on the board of PAA, that would probably cover you as well. You could put hours down there. Being an expert witness, interesting one. If you happen to end up being an expert witness in a court or some legal matter, that's probably how that one works. Membership of other professional bodies or groups. So I guess once again, that's a little grey because just because you're a membership, how do you put hours down for that? I guess that is talking about your activity involved in a membership of other professional bodies or groups. Now, once again, the Gardening Association is probably not going to wash because it doesn't come under any of these broad topics here that are written in the criteria. So remember, keep those in mind. They're listed in the criteria. Then these topics are not in this document at all. That is for you to reasonably put down relevant areas. So those topics, those 9 areas are the relevant areas. If you give a presentation at a conference, that's good. You get hours for there. Now, not necessarily the preparation, but how long you presented at the conference for. If you only presented for half an hour, then put down half an hour. Organising accredited courses, supervising research, being a national assessor. So I guess being a national assessor might be that you sat on the panel for new podauthors to come on. You can claim those hours there. Always important, just describe the subjects covered specifically. Okay, category 2 done. Category 3, formal education. So here we have, let's go to the last column first. This must be verified by another person unrelated or a screenshot image of the certificate of attendance. Attach all PDFs as separate documents. So here we are looking for no self-verification, even though it says here SV, you can't self-verify this one. We're looking for another person verifying it or a attendance certificate. Start date, end date, hours you're nominating, And here we see highlighted attending the conference number 4 is highlighted. That's because after this year and prior to this year too, it was compulsory. So this year, this current period that we're doing, the 2021 year, it's not compulsory due to COVID-19. So if you've done courses, further education, research, writing articles or papers, going to seminars, distance learning, courses accredited by a professional body, planning or running a course, you need to describe the subjects covered, you need to provide the organisation, and it will need to come under these broad topics. According to criteria, that's how it works. Okay. They're all fairly straightforward, I think. I mean, going to a seminar and attending a conference, pretty similar, but maybe it's seminars perhaps a little bit smaller in scale than conferences. So if you feel like you've gone to some sort of small education thing, event, and you could not really call it a conference, then you've got freedom there to still mention it, even though it's a conference is definitely needed. So that's probably the one I should perhaps talk a little bit more about. I assume that the APRB is looking for related conferences, and so when it's compulsory, we are going to have to find a conference to get to. But assuming that PAA is your first choice, and that's going to be the one that most people get, if you can't get to a Podorthic Association conference, you will have to find another one that is related to Podorthics, and that using those 9 broad topics. So your podiatry conferences will all be fine. Your state podiatry conferences will all be fine. Any conference that's specific to a medical condition, perhaps. So the CMT Association run a conference every couple of years. I think up in Queensland, the Arthritis Association run day conferences. So it doesn't have to be a weekend conference. It doesn't have to be something you go on a lavish trip away for. It doesn't say for how long the conference has to be. It doesn't say anything like that, just a relevant conference. So I'll just deal with one thing there. So perhaps the conference is really something that is hard to pin to a specific Podorthic area here, but it is still a conference that you thought was valuable to your professional learning. Then it is going to be up to you to demonstrate, when you describe what subjects were valid, to make sure you make that clear to the APRB. So, for instance, if you decide that you want to, the conference you're choosing to put there is to do with homeopathy. So homeopathy, really nothing related to Podorthics directly, but homeopathy also deal with pain management. You could use that, and if you described it well enough, that when dealing with perhaps the pathology of diseases and managing pain through Podorthics, you learnt that homeopathy has some options, and you have now become a bit better versed in homeopathy and how they treat their patients for pain management, then I think that's a good way to demonstrate to the APRB auditors that you're not just putting down this conference to get a conference put in there, that this conference was attended with a view to improving your Podorthic practice and how you manage your patients. Not necessarily directly related to improving how you do modifications or orthotics, or it doesn't increase your anatomy or biomechanics knowledge, doesn't help you do better assessments, but it in the area of pathology of diseases and patient management, perhaps in practice management, you have learnt this. Now, if the whole conference is 2 days and there was only a 4-hour session or 2-hour session from someone on pain management, then by rights you should just put down 2 hours and not the fact that you were there the whole weekend and the rest of it was a golfing trip. The second day was a golf day or whatever. So, okay, I think hopefully that helps you understand that. Okay, last one. Self-directed learning. And I guess this one is there because it's not easy to do all those other ones if you're not in a city. So I think for most of us who practice in a city and we can go and visit a colleague if we need to learn something, or we can go to a seminar, or we can do lots of just non-formal learning quite easily. For those who are perhaps not in the city or don't really find themselves able to do that, then self-directed learning is a way where you can fill in another category here. And the criteria makes you work for it. So yes, you can read some journals, you can review books and articles, you can read newsletters, you can update your knowledge off the internet, you can watch YouTube videos, you can do all that. However, once again, be specific with the subjects covered. Maybe if it's an internet link, you want to put the link there, but also you are expected to write a 300-word minimum summary of what you learnt through that. So once again, that might you might have taken 8 hours to read a book, or you might have over the whole year you've read journals for you read a journal once a week at least, and so you're going to put down 28 hours here. You are going to need to describe all those subjects covered and put a 300-word minimum summary on each of those topics. So not just 300 words. Will they take kindly to you putting down 28 hours here with one set? So you need, once again, to nominate 1, 2, 3 and list in this document all the times that you have specifically read a journal, learned something about a subject, and at least can write 300 words on it. This one here says upload a document. Well, that's an image. So maybe you could take a photo of the journal. Maybe you do a screenshot of something. Once again, the fillable template is making you work a little bit there so that you have to justify this learning type that you're putting in. It's not going to be easy to make up something because you won't have an image if you've made something up. So if you want to make up that you read a journal and it covered biomechanics and how to do how to assess muscle strength, and you make up 300-word summary about it, but that here you need to upload the document. Now, the auditors might look at that and they might say, great, or they might look at it and they go, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to see if this is actually relevant. And that'll be up to whoever's auditing your document to see whether they agree with that you've done the right thing by claiming those hours. Okay, coming to the end, it's been a long one, but basically the last page here is for the APRB use only. This is where the auditors, auditors still don't know who's done this form, so they need to tick it off tick off 2 areas: A, that 5 cases have been presented, and B, that at least 30 hours of CPD are reported, acceptable CPD are reported, and then they give a result of the audit, and it might be pass, it might be need more information. So I don't think they're likely to fail you on this first one. They are going to ask you for more information. Overall, the APRB recognise that they're going through a transition period from the old management to this type of management, and they're reasonably expecting that everyone will submit, that everyone can submit work logs. It has been in the past where perhaps some people have not submitted work logs, and they are definitely starting to tighten that up. It has been the case that people have taken 11 months to put in logs. So instead of putting them in by the end of June, they actually put them in by the end of the following May. So they are trying to tighten this up, and that's with the support of the Podolthic Association. They're trying to tighten that up, but they're not really wanting to pull the reins too hard. I just urge people to have a go at their logs, fill it in as much as you can, be as specific as you can, and without going over the top with information. It's not a case of the amount of information they get will make it more acceptable. It is the more specific you can make it, the more acceptable it will be. And like I said in the last video, if you need any help, if you want any guidance on this, don't hesitate to give me send me an email through the PAA, send me an email through the APRB, no problem at all. If you want to do your logs and flick it to me and have me look at it and see what I think first before you send it off, happy to do that too. Like I say, I'm not on the registration board, so I won't be an auditor for it. But I was instrumental, not in writing the criteria, but I was instrumental in formulating this template so that it was easy for everyone. So easy for the registration board to judge and read what was acceptable, and hopefully a bit easier for practitioners, for the podorthists to see the broad opportunities and the variety of opportunities they have for doing CPD logs, and that it's not too onerous to do this stuff, I don't think. And if it is onerous, and particularly in the current climate, email the APRB and tell them that you're having trouble with CPD hours and what can you do about it. And I'm sure they will be willing to give you some advice and help you there. All right. Hey, thanks everyone. Let me know if you have liked this video, and I'm sure wherever we post it, there'll be some comments down below for you to make comment. Happy to answer questions that way as well if I see them there, and more than happy to answer individual responses via the email. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.